I have some breaking news that has given me an idea on which day exactly that Bitcoin can top out in the first half of 2025. Now, that is a very bold claim, but we have an event that predicted the top for the first half of 2021. It is a top 5 crypto company going public with an IPO. Last time it was Coinbase, this time it's Circle, the company behind the world's second largest stablecoin, USDC. Now, an IPO stands for Initial Public Offering, and essentially it is the process of offering the shares of your company to the public in a new stock issuance for the very first time. Now, there's a couple requirements that you have to abide by with the Securities Exchange Commission, and oftentimes companies will hire investment banks to market, gauge demand, and set the IPO price, date, and more. But what you may not realize is the Coinbase IPO perfectly coincided with Bitcoin's top for the first half of 2021, and I mean to the exact day. And Circle is choosing the exact same banks that Coinbase chose to IPO with. Now, right here, we're looking at the entire history of Coinbase's stock, and the IPO, the day that it launched, was April 14th, 2021. And if we go to Bitcoin and look at the price history for 2021, the very first peak that happened, if we go to the daily candle here, make sure we got the exact date. And if we go to Coinbase, and this is this cycle right here, this is the 2021 cycle. If we zoom in to the first half of 2021, the very day that Bitcoin topped was also April 14th. And there are allegations that the banks that Coinbase chose to IPO with maybe had a hand in manipulating Bitcoin's price to an all-time high on the day that the IPO launched. I want to give a quick shout out to L Bank Exchange. It is my favorite exchange to get all of the latest trading pairs, all of the hottest meme coins and altcoins. You can go to the spot trading, or you could do futures perpetual trading. And we have a link down below with the tutorial on the top of our page. Tons and tons of features here, 24/7 customer support, huge reach here, huge volume, millions of users, and they have over 200 countries and regions covered. So go ahead, open up an account, deposit some funds, and start your trading journey. So let's look at Coinbase's SEC filing paperwork. So this was filed back in 2021, and luckily I went to school for accounting. I kind of remember somewhat how to navigate this. So we go to the table of contents, and on the left side, you're going to see plan of distribution. If we click on plan of distribution, that tells you the banks that they're engaging with to release their IPO. We've engaged Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Allen and Company, and then finally Citigroup. So JP Morgan and Citigroup helped launch Coinbase's IPO. And if we go to Circle, the company behind the USD stablecoin, Circle also hired JP Morgan and Citigroup to plan with their IPO. And while there's no smoking gun that Citigroup and JP Morgan manipulated Bitcoin's price, that has always been kind of the understanding of the crypto world. You know, it's a little coincidental that the IPO launched on the exact day that Bitcoin topped for the first half of 2021. So while the timing for Circle's IPO is not yet decided, sources say Circle will publicly file its prospectus in late April, meaning a potential IPO perhaps prior to June, so probably May or June. So while the timing is not yet totally decided, sources say Circle will publicly file its prospectus in late April, meaning a potential IPO perhaps prior to June. So maybe a May or June launch for the IPO, and then this could coincide with exactly the top for Bitcoin. And we're going to go to the charts, and I'll show you the evidence that might be pointing to that direction. Now, they previously filed their confidential paperwork in January 2024, and according to people familiar with the matter who spoke to Fortune, Circle's seeking a $4 to $5 billion valuation, and CoinDesk also reported that the company was valued roughly $5 billion in private market. So we're definitely seeing a lot of indications this is happening and happening soon. Now, the reason we might see a launch prior to June, May or June, typically is going to take about 4 weeks, maybe a little longer. So Circle could trade 4 weeks after this public filing, but it could take much longer depending on its registration status. But now we have a favorable SEC, so I think the registration should happen smoothly. Now let's go to the charts. I'll tell you exactly what I mean when it comes to Bitcoin, mimicking the kind of area we're at right before or right around the Coinbase IPO. And so this is Bitcoin 2025. I want to show you some on the weekly RSI. So last cycle, this is this launch right here. The Coinbase IPO launched right in this window. And I kind of feel we're in an area similar to this, where we had a nice little run up, ran up above 100K. Now Bitcoin is down. So Bitcoin had a nice little run up, ran to 60K in 2021, and then fell 55% before it put in new all-time highs. But I wanted to show you something. We are looking at two distinct things. First, with the RSI 2021 cycle, We had a little bit of a peak in the DeFi summer of 2020. So we had a double top peak with a second peak higher than the first one. And then we had a nice surge into overbought, and then it just slowly declined. If you look at 2024, 2025, we had a nice double peak with the second peak being higher than the first one, just like right here. And then we had a nice surge into overbought territory with a slow decline. So we're seeing a lot of similarities of where we're at right here to where we're at in this area right here. So could expect a nice little pump for Bitcoin, but that's not all. I saw something else in the charts here. So looking at the peak of Bitcoin's price first half 2021, this is right around Coinbase's IPO. Bitcoin found a bottom 70 days later. 10 weeks later, it would put in its lowest wick. Well, if you look at where we're at right now, we find the peak for Bitcoin and then go forward 70 days. That is where we're at right now. So we're in the zone that maybe, time-wise, this is where we started to bounce in 2021. And so I'm kind of feeling similar vibes. We're seeing, decent RSI. We're seeing nice little support in the medium area, not spending too much time into oversold. And if we can climb back into the strength part of the RSI, the overbought territory, that would signal a lot of strength coming into the market, a lot of net buyers coming into the market. So could spell the top for Bitcoin. So as far as exact date, we don't know the exact date that this is going to happen. Looks like it could be May, could be June, but keep an eye out for a local top for Bitcoin. This played out perfectly with Coinbase. I wouldn't be surprised if it plays out perfectly with Circle, and then maybe giving us a little bit of a Q3, Q4, maybe even Q1 2026 final cycle top for Bitcoin. But to me, this is definitely spelling a local top. That's all I got. Hopefully I'll see you and your Bitcoin bags at the top.